Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to the One Bitcoin Show. Today is November 11th, 2017. Strong hand, people. What a time for a strong hand. All right, the one topic today is the Bcash pump. I just woke up and Simon wanted to come on the show, and I was like, "This is awesome! I don't have to come up with my whole big talk today. I'll just let Simon do all the talking. He'll give everyone a strong hand." As you can see, I'm not too this. I mean, I'm a long-term thinker. These things happen. But Simon, welcome to the show. Everyone is interested in your opinion about this wild and wacky Bcash pump we've been experiencing since FUD Friday. Take it away from you're in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah, in Hong Kong. God, so much to cover and so much behind this. So let's just try and start from the beginning. So what's happening right now? Well, as we speak, the market cap of Bitcoin Cash has just overtaken Ethereum. So the flippening has happened. Bitcoin Cash is now the number 2 altcoin, the number 2 coin on CoinMarketCap. And that flippening that people talked about earlier this year has happened, but definitely not how people thought it would happen. That's currently happening, and the markets are absolutely wild. The liquidity and volume is absolutely insane, but we have seen an incredible amount of Korean won being invested into Bitcoin Cash. And that's pumped the price up. It's awfully volatile at the moment. It's hard to catch it. But I think, we've had well over a doubling and, an incredible pump into Bitcoin Cash. Now, it's worth noting that by far and away, the largest amount of liquidity has come from the Korean won. As you know, I'm an investor in many of the exchanges. I'm not an investor in any of the Korean exchanges. We're not seeing as much US dollar or Bitcoin pour into Bitcoin Cash. There is still volume, don't get me wrong, but Korean won is behind this pump. And if you look throughout this year, that has really been a theme of the year. So, earlier when we started this year, China was the number 1 in terms of speculative volume. And then a series of events have led up to Korea and Japan being some of the most significant countries in the crypto space. The first event is that Japan decided to take on the regulated side of the market. They decided to embrace Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and put together regulatory structures. So a lot of volume, the institutional volume, a lot of people that needed to use Bitcoin in a regulated environment where they needed extra safeguards, extra protections, procedures to safeguard against massive manipulation, went to Japan, and then China banned the exchanges, so that made everyone move. So a lot of those people, a lot of that volume either went to the US dollar, the Japanese yen if it needed be, which created a new, but all the speculative volume has gone over to the Korean won. So the Korean won has, South Korea has taken the same role that China used to have. And so now Korea, if you look at every single altcoin, every single pump that's come where significant volume has been pumped into a certain coin, it's happened in a very coordinated manner whereby the volume has come very, very quickly, very, very fast in a market which doesn't have any regulated structure right now. So if you look at what's happening in South Korea, they've just had an ICO ban because, similar to China, the speculation was getting out of control. Now the South Korean market has really, the exchanges are still there, and so it's become the market to really facilitate a lot of the speculative volume in an unregulated environment. And you see these big chunks of volume coming in through the Korean exchanges. The challenge with the Korean market is that it's probably going to go a similar way to where China went, because the speculation is really out of control there. that will need to follow the Japanese model at some point. But what we've seen is a tremendous amount of volume being put into Bitcoin Cash from these Korean exchanges. Now, at the same time, we had the cancellation of the hard fork SegWit2x, and that was due to happen this week, next week, I believe. This week, I don't know where we're at right now, depending on your time zone. It's Sunday here in Hong Kong, so next week. And that was cancelled due to the fact that the people that were driving that said that they couldn't get consensus. And now, as Adam, I know you've been saying this on your show, the big beneficiary of SegWit not happening was going to be Bitcoin Cash. And you've been saying that all along. So immediately when SegWit2x was cancelled, the market took it as good news before they got to process what that actually means. So once I got my head around SegWit2x actually happening and that there was going to be a new split, I think all of the exchanges, all of the wallets, all of the ecosystem started planning how they're going to actually safeguard against a coin or a hard fork that doesn't have replay protection. So all of the businesses, the infrastructure was getting ready to actually implement their own versions of replay protection from within their business, so that the clients didn't lose their money and there wasn't this ultimate confusion. Now, the goal of SegWit2x was not to do what Bitcoin Cash did. It was not to create an altcoin, but it was actually to create one Bitcoin and change who was in control of the GitHub and code, the commit access for that code. And so they decided that that wasn't going to happen because all the exchanges and wallets were going to put together safeguards, and Bitcoin was going to keep its original ticker, BTC, and all the exchanges, wallets, and everything else were just going to implement some way and some procedure. Now, the reason I'm a bit disappointed that SegWit2x didn't happen in the end, and it was a very good strategic move, was because I wanted Bitcoin to implement these procedures. Unfortunately, in an environment where record levels of volume, record levels of new users, crypto is going on to change the entire financial system. Dev time is extremely valuable, and you can only work. A lot of these crypto businesses are working on kind of management by crisis, as opposed to careful planning of exactly how they're going to do these things. So as soon as SegWit2x doesn't happen, the entire community goes whew, and all the businesses start working on what they were planning to do, as opposed to implementing this thing that would have made Bitcoin really, really strong and safeguarded against non-replay protection hard forks. So it's a shame that it didn't happen, because now the urgency is no longer there. Now, combine all these forces together, combine everything that's happened this year with the fact that Bitcoin over the last 12 months has went from $750 to $7,500. Now, leading up to Christmas and Thanksgiving, when everybody's going to be looking at buying their new houses in the new year, or buying their Christmas presents for their loved ones, and unwinding, I think a lot of people are saying a 10x investment is great for me. I'm going to take some money off the table, and then combine it with the fact that Bitcoin Cash at the very same time had this coordinated, it seems like a coordinated effort in order to put a lot of Korean won into Bitcoin Cash, sorry. And you've got all these things kind of coming together, in which case this creates the perfect environment for panic selling, panic buying, complete uncertainty amongst people that don't know, really what they're doing, what's happening here. Those with a short-term vision, a lot of people will be switching from Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash in the confusion of the market. They'll be worrying that 10x return that they were sat on is depleting away, and therefore you're going to see a sell-off, and that probably will continue. The reason that I don't believe it will be a dramatic sell-off, and while we have seen some really big moves in this November, and we'll probably continue seeing those throughout December, is because the reality is that Wall Street is only building on one thing, and that's the BTC ticker. The Bitcoin ticker, the BTC ticker, is what all of the large institutional volume is going to be building on top of, as we've seen with, you know, another thing to add is the CME futures and the things we've been seeing with hacks and Ethereum. The pace is just getting so fast that I'm sure you having a show each day means that what you said yesterday has kind of taken a new turn just in a 24-hour period. So there's no lack of excitement, but here's the cold hard reality. The situation that I see it, if we look at try and look at this objectively right now, Bitcoin Cash does have a community. It does have people that really believe, and it just got bigger because SegWit 2x, those people will be unified, or some of those people will be unified behind Bitcoin Cash, or they'll just start working on their own projects and ICOs and other things that they're planning for the new year. That community their goal is to create digital cash. Bitcoin BTC is already achieved digital gold. That has been achieved, over the last 8 years, and it is digital gold. It is a store of value, but people are more hoarders and they want to hold it for the long term, and therefore they are less likely to spend it because they tend to spend inflationary currency rather than deflationary currency, either i.e. US dollars or some of the speculative coins that they might be using. So excuse me. So if we put this into one summary right now, BTC still has all the same fundamental economics that it had yesterday, last week, the year before. It's still going to halve in 2020. It's still digital gold, and I do not believe there is any competition for Bitcoin as a store of value. What is not proven is what will become digital cash in the end. And there's many people that want to take that title. Bitcoin Core have decided that digital cash is most likely to come off-chain through things like Lightning Network, side chains, drive chains, and the core protocol of BTC Bitcoin should not be messed with, other than for making sure that it's more security, more safety, and that this thing doesn't break. However, the innovation can happen off-chain through Lightning networks, and there's lots of other people that want to take that title as well. Bitcoin Cash are building a community around trying to turn it into digital cash. Litecoin wants that title. Many of the people behind Ethereum even want that title, even though it was never designed. That's a smart contract platform, completely different. Zcash wants that title. Privacy Coin, Monero wants that title. But what we're going to see throughout 2019 is really a lot of innovation around the interoperability of all these different blockchains. Digital gold is essential to the entire ecosystem, store of value. BTC needs to be a store of value so that everything else can be built upon that and interoperability can continue. So where we're seeing right now, because of all the confusion in the market, people unfortunately are going to be speculating more than they should be. A lot of people are going to get burned. Some are going to have a huge paycheck because they gambled and got it right. But the Bitcoin digital gold will still continue, and Wall Street will be sucking up all of those cheap Bitcoins because they have been looking for that buying opportunity. They had their buying opportunity during the China ban. That sucked up a tremendous amount of Bitcoin that pushed it up into new highs. I think this one is going to be more confusing. It will last longer. And we've also got the Thanksgiving and New Year's period coming up. So this one could last longer. So I think you're going to have remember, Wall Street, say what you want about them, but Bitcoin traders are complete amateurs compared to Wall Street traders. Wall Street traders know how to accumulate vast sums of an asset at the best price. And they know how to do that with perfection, with best tools, and everything that they use in the traditional markets, they will be implementing into these new markets. They will be accumulating at the best price they possibly can, and they will use all of their tools, all of the leverage prime brokerage tools, all of the CME futures, all of everything that's being built in Wall Street over the years in order to accumulate those at the cheapest possible price possible, because they did miss the boat and everyone else was in before them. So if you're selling, you're giving to Wall Street, and Wall Street will be accumulating, and digital gold will continue once we got through this period.
Wow, that was a great opening right there. I want everyone out there to pound that like button right now. I might have to say that more than once during this very special One Bitcoin show, but there's the first time. Subscribe to this channel if you like things like this, and do check out the notes section below for the archives. I'll add Simon's link. Literally, it is 6 in the morning here in Israel. I woke up at 5 in the morning because I was going to do my show, and I saw Simon wanted to get on, so I got him on for you guys, and it has been very informative so far. That's the kind of breaking news, great guests that you get here. And I'm proud to be able to do this at the spur of the moment. So everyone on the East Coast, I know it's late. There are a lot of people watching this right now. So you just said the flippening has happened, which I was going to predict. And I didn't, I mean, literally I wake up and Ethereum is number 3 now. I mean, this is wild and wacky stuff. Very unexpected to this soon. So I think something that hasn't been talked about here, 3 things right here. I mean, this is going to give you a lot to talk about. Let's talk more about the coordination, the names behind this. I mean, this is the perfect storm for them. How much of their own money are they throwing into this? 2, let's talk about people are telling me that on Bitcoin, the network is being spammed right now, which is a form of FUD, basically, to make Bitcoin look inefficient. And right now, the price of Bcash is it's what, 31% of a Bitcoin? That is shocking. That is how long can that be maintained for? And take it away. I mean, those are just the thoughts off the top of my head. I mean, I want to mention Ethereum too, but keep going.
Yeah, well, I think people have to stop looking, and the community is full based upon emotion and history, and everything that's happened over the years, into thinking that Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash are competitors. Bitcoin Cash has, in my opinion, got no chance of ever being digital gold. The jury's out with what will be, what will actually be digital cash. That's still a race that can be won. So what I think is happening here is I believe that the Bitcoin Cash it shouldn't be underestimated like it originally was by myself, certainly, and others. There are people behind it. There is a community behind it. Whether this is just a couple of people chucking their money, or whether this is just people that are the thing with Bitcoin is that there's no regulation here, and people, this is a true free market, but true free markets can be manipulated based upon self-interest. Now, self-interest and manipulation, they're very negative words, but really we should never be surprised by the fact that everyone works in their own self-interest. So miners are maximizing profit, businesses are maximizing profits, users have all sorts of different ideologies of why they got into Bitcoin, from pure speculation due to libertarian idealism, to wanting to take down the entire financial system, to wanting to take down governments, and there's all sorts of ideologies in between there. What we're seeing in the community is people arguing over ideologies, it's politics. But the cold, hard reality here is that everyone has different ideologies and everybody is acting out of self-interest. So we know that there's some very wealthy people that want to see Bitcoin Cash become digital cash. Now, I know you call Roger king of trolls. I don't see him that way. I do believe that Roger is acting out of his own self-interest and his own belief about what Bitcoin, should be, and what it, and I think that he's following with true, conviction, putting his money on the line to follow his vision about what he thinks it should be and who should be developing it and what should be done. There's resources behind that. So what I think the new paradigm that people really need to think about is that there's no competition right now for digital gold. There is competition for digital cash, and remember, it's about having a real clear understanding. If you've watched any of our previous shows that we did together, my personal belief about cash is that people value stability more than anything else. People use cash because they can go buy some bread, and that bread will be the same price throughout the entire year, adjusted for some kind of inflation, depending upon how responsible that government is. So to me, digital cash cannot have a fixed supply. In fact, Ethereum might even work better because it is inflationary. You have to implement some kind of algorithm that adjusts to the economy that you're dealing with. Now, these are global cryptocurrencies. So you would need, in order to achieve digital cash, you would need some kind of global algorithm that measures prices, growth, and it's incredibly complex to actually adjust that in order to achieve stability in pricing. But humans do not want to go buy bread and it costs them half as much or twice as much because some people in Korea are actually pumping lots of Korean won into it. So in my opinion, most of the cryptocurrencies today that have fixed money supplies are not appropriate for the user case of digital cash. Now, saying that, there might be a hybrid model, a new paradigm, whereby the world shifts to this one global currency and the whole world kind of converges in pricing. You know, the goal is immense to actually achieve that because we've got such differences across the world. So this whole goal of digital cash is an immensely hard one to achieve. At the moment, it's kind of the Bitcoin Cash community believes that it's all about transaction fees, getting slow transaction fees, and replicating the way that Bitcoin originally grew through those transaction fees and confirmation times. However, I personally believe it's human psychology that is driving. Now, if we do end up in this hybrid world where people don't mind holding something as a store of value and then spending it as it appreciates or depreciates, and kind of accepting real volatility into their life around how they spend money, which a lot of people that live in the entire, just the Bitcoin economy or the crypto economy do. But in the future, what we're going to see, I think, for these digital cash is we're going to see lots of blockchains, lots of different things that achieve one set user case very well, and then there's going to be lightning networks or atomic swaps or side chains that optimize every interoperability of all these different blockchains. So I believe at the end of this, there will be some kind of unified crypto market where everything does rely upon having that digital gold. I don't think digital gold will be replicated. There's a few reasons, because digital gold was created because Satoshi Nakamoto was anonymous. There was no point of failure in that sense. It achieved its goal because it was created in a time when nobody cares. It got the maximum security in terms of hash power, all the other things that made Bitcoin achieve and get to where it is today, and the first mover advantage. The BTC ticker is not going to change. Bitcoin Cash is not going to suddenly become BTC, but we have to accept that there might be, Bitcoin Cash might work on their centralization issues. Bitcoin Cash might get traction for achieving digital cash. They might have, fast changing of, whatever the consensus is behind it and whatever their models are. And I don't think we need to see that as a competitor to BTC digital gold. We might get there. It's really about, no one really knows exactly how this is going right now. But one thing you have to remember is that if you do try and achieve digital cash, you have to try and achieve stable money. And stable money is not an investment, because by definition, it is the money that you spend. And when you want to spend your money, you don't want volatility. Volatility is very bad for cash. An asset that's going up in value is very bad for cash. It's a nice little bonus, but it can equally go down in value, and volatility is not something people want when planning, their mortgages, their rent, their expenditure. You need stability because your wages don't correlate to it. You might be a niche type of person that manages to, create some kind of hedge fund in your own personal life that matches where these movements are going, but the majority won't. And that's why I believe digital cash became a niche within Bitcoin, and it will become a niche within all these other things, mainly based upon people speculating, holding, and then spending some of their based upon those prices. But in terms of actually doing what PayPal did, doing what some of these user cases that they're looking to do, it is a very hard ask. The world just does not think or work that way.
All right. You mentioned the word psychology in there. And I say that this is all about psychology, what has been going on now. We have some people out there who are not going to be able to grasp what you just said, and are just going to see what's going on as Bcash is going to take over Bitcoin. And there are some very persuasive people behind Bcash. We cannot deny that. So while it's obvious that Bcash cannot become Bitcoin, the persuasive people behind Bcash, they don't say that. I mean, they make it out like this is the latest and greatest thing. This will be the #1 cryptocurrency. And I think right now, just people were worried about SegWit 2x to begin with. They are in the panic mode. There are so many weak hands out there that are susceptible to this psychology, to this persuasiveness. And I think we here are doing a service. We're educating. We're putting out, the real situation, but it's just going to be difficult for people to grasp. It's the 80-20% thing again. I think the smart people out there are seeing that the golden holders like me are seeing this as an amazing opportunity, and people for some reason held onto their Bcash to get 30% on the money to get Bitcoin free like that is amazing. Now, I don't know if you believe that people should still hold their if they got their Bcash for free, should they still hold it? I have to say that it's amazing to be able to get 30%. I mean, again, I'm just waking up to this news. I see that the markets are totally irrational now. It's Korea. I called it, you mentioned the exchange BitHum. It is the BitHum effect on steroids. Ethereum Classic is up for no reason at all either over there. They just buy into anything that's flying up. And this is the perfect storm for those persuasive people in Japan. The one guy, the king of the trolls, who is very persuasive. This is just the perfect storm for him. And again, the Bitcoin network is being spammed right now, I'm being told. Do you think that is related to all of this? And you also mentioned something that people need to be reminded about. It's the Wall Street. People are getting Bitcoin for free because of this. I think in the end of the day, we're going to look back at this and see it. This is my opinion. I'm not saying it's yours. As a transfer of wealth from the weak hand to the strong hand. It's just the rich get richer situation. This is digital cash we're talking about. That's the best they can have. Bcash has so many people competing with them. Litecoin is better than them, really. And I think a lot of people are getting fooled into buying this stuff. Whales could do whatever they want to, but if there is a guy out there who has 4 Bitcoin and now he's panicking and he's like, man, I better diversify in the Bcash, I think he's going to regret it. And he wastes one of his Bitcoin on Bcash. I think he's going to end up regretting it. This is something I was going to say on my show today. In the long run, that he gave away 1/4 of his wealth to this Bcash thing during this whole hype cycle. So I think people need to sit back and watch this thing, listen to people like Simon, try to see the logic behind this, the direction we're going in, because nothing's really changed with Bitcoin. It is still the world reserve cryptocurrency. So, I also want to say the B gold starts later today. The numbers there, it's at like 7% of a Bitcoin. I like B gold and everything. I think there is some just irrational craziness going on out there. I think it's like everything is free is worth something now. It's wild and wacky stuff. I mean, it's something. If you're a holder, you're loving life. You really are, I think. Anyway, Simon, take it away. Thoughts?
Yeah, so the cold hard reality is we're touching upon human psychology here. There's different types of people in the world. The people that are completely relaxed right now, the people that are just chilling, the people that are really watching the markets and loving it, didn't sell their Bitcoin Cash for Bitcoin. They held equal amounts of all of them, and they just sit here and see what happens. If you want a relaxed life, if you want to get on with what you're doing, if you want to follow the buy and hold strategy, the adjustment certainly is, based upon what the market is telling us, what's unfolding here is that you probably shouldn't be selling these things for Bitcoin. You should actually be hedging and holding all of them in equal quantities. Is probably the if you want a relaxed life. Now, you might decide that you want to be a bit more speculative and you want to decide what direction. Let's take a theoretical world where Bitcoin is digital gold and Bitcoin Cash becomes digital cash. Let's just take that theoretical world. Whether that happens or not is completely unclear, extremely speculative, and if you position your finances around that, that will be a decision that you've made. But let's look at that world. Is digital cash, would it have a higher market cap than digital gold? Well, we don't know. I mean, you could compare the market cap of gold to the market cap of US dollars. Just because the entire amount of dollars out there in the world might be worth more or less, it doesn't really impact what happens in the gold markets, really. Now, while certainly there is some speculative where gold becomes a hedge against US dollar failure or the financial system collapsing, and Bitcoin has now played into that. The similar thing might actually happen in the crypto market. So for me, the ultra conservative approach is now the right approach. That wasn't exactly what I said when this originally happened, because I underestimated what would happen here. But that is the right approach, I believe, right now, so that you can relax, just chill out. And then maybe rather than seeing it as a 10, 20%, 30%, 40%, whatever comes in the end, depending on your timing, dividend, it just means it's like an insurance policy on your Bitcoin, really. I think it needs to be looked at slightly differently based upon what the market's saying. Now, saying that, you will pay different prices for insurance based upon the belief about what you think might happen. So certainly Bitcoin Cash, you would pay a higher premium than you would for Bitcoin Gold, because the team behind it, the ability, the capabilities, everything is different, those dynamics. So obviously that insurance would be come at a lower cost than protecting against Bitcoin Cash. So you can kind of look at it like that. Unfortunately, in order to explain these things, we need to come up with these analogies. But the cold, hard reality is that whatever you do, you are speculating. Unfortunately, we live in a speculative world. That world, if you hold your money in dollars, you are speculating. If you hold your money in property, you are speculating on whether the property markets will continue to sustain. If you put it in the S&P, if you contribute it to a pension, if you have insurance, unfortunately, the entire world is completely underqualified to be speculators. But the nature of the world that we are in is that we are all speculators. If you just work a job and don't take any financial education, it depends on the country that you live in, but you are speculating on that currency, and you have to work harder and harder and harder every month in order to grow the value of that currency, because it is being inflated away in order to create stable value. And this is just a cold, hard reality. Then you decide to take some of your savings and you put them in property. Now you are making a speculation upon the government and the bank's ability to sustain that property market in that moment. And then you might take some of it and put it into gold, and then you take some of it and put it into Bitcoin. Now, here's why I believe BTC Bitcoin is such an important asset class moving into the future, other than all of the user case and the utility of owning your own money, spending your own money, and having a store of value that actually is deflationary, and therefore your purchasing power goes up over time. Other than that, every single fund manager in the world is overexposed to correlated assets. They're exposed to the property markets, the currency markets, the stock markets, the bond markets, and all of these assets are correlated. Now, gold used to be an uncorrelated asset. It was meant to be done that, but it hasn't turned out that way. Whereas Bitcoin is an uncorrelated asset. And because it's an uncorrelated asset, what that means is that if the property market, stock market, bond market, currency market, any of those markets crash, and they all will, that's guaranteed. They will crash at some point. Every market crashes, including Bitcoin right now. If those market crashes, every single fund manager, every money manager in the world, if they are responsible, and they have to be responsible by their fiduciary duty, they will have to have Bitcoin in their portfolio, because it's the only uncorrelated asset that you can protect your portfolio from the crash of these markets. And so even if you hate Bitcoin, you don't believe in it, every fund manager in the world is going to have it in their portfolio. Now, the only thing to stop them right now is the regulations. The regulations are all coming through. So that user case of digital gold, in my opinion, over the long term, with the halving every single 4 years, is only going to become more and more valuable. Now, will digital cash be worth more? We don't know. Nobody knows the answer to that. So the only way to protect yourself now is to just keep all your hard forks. It's the only strategy that you can responsibly relax. And then you're enjoying this Bitcoin cash pump. You're benefiting from the fruits of labor of these people trying to actually decide whether they can create digital cash in a better way than Bitcoin's been able to achieve. So really, it's a rethinking. And if you decide that you want to back one horse, you just have to know that's perfectly fine to do that, but you're speculating on the value of that one horse. And are you protected? Are you diversified? It's all about taking the emotions out of it. All of the last 3 years, this is I got into Bitcoin for emotional reasons. I wanted to protect against bank deposits. I believe that there was, really disgusting things happening in traditional markets. Now, Bitcoin is getting traction now. It's getting volume. It's getting mainstream. It's getting retail people in. It's getting Wall Street. It's getting institutional people. It's getting ideologies in. All of these players are now coming together to make this market. And the cold, hard reality is, watch billions. There are people that make money out of every market, including Bitcoin. That is insiders that have the capital, that have the access, the hedge funds that have the access to prime brokerage. And the prime brokerage are the people that lend the money to push and move markets in ways that no one else can handle. And there is insider trading in every single market, despite regulations, because these insiders do position around themselves everything that's about to happen. And so the cold, hard reality is, if you're a trader, if you want to speculate on these markets, if you want to move in, move out based upon the direction and flow, then you better have more resources than these guys, because these guys will win. They always win in every single market, including Bitcoin. And if you're a trader, then you are essentially either connected in those inner circles or you're not. That's just the cold, hard reality. But there is something that beats market manipulation every single time. There's something that beats coordinated efforts. And that is the long-term fundamentals of the asset class doesn't change. If it doesn't change, if you are investing in a long-term value, then you need to not participate in those markets. You need to not participate in being a trader. And you just need to sit back and be the buy and hold investor. Those buy and hold investors are the ordinary people that do make money despite all the manipulation that's happening around them. There's things we don't know. You asked me question, are certain people behind these moves? I could speculate on that. I could ask, I could do some research. I'm somewhat of an insider, so I could try and find those things out. But the cold, hard reality is nobody really knows. So the only strategy is to be a buy and holder, or You can try to be one of those hedge fund managers. You can try to trade your way around these markets. You might luck out, and you might be okay with that. Maybe you don't mind, you know, this is your speculative money, but that's just the cold, hard reality. Things like this happen, and you're seeing it today in full force. And don't be surprised by it, because everybody is acting in their own self-interest. If people believe that Bitcoin Cash is the future, then they are going to tweet, they are going to act in their own self-interest. They're going to go to exchanges, they're going to pay things, they're going to coordinate, they're going to do everything within their power to make their vision of the world happen. Now, some people, it will be just a little tweet. For other people, it will be doing everything. And don't think that this is just something for Bitcoin Cash. This is the same thing for Bitcoin. Markets, it's the same thing for the S&P. It's the same thing for gold. Markets do face these forces. But the one thing that everybody can be on board with, that everybody can stay, is that if you own Bitcoin, you get the benefit of all these hard forks. If you decide that you want to sell them and go into and back one horse, then have it be known that that is a bit of a speculative move, and that might not work out and might not be the best move, because nobody actually knows. But in the long run, the one thing that I am sure of, and I will end here, is that the user case of digital gold and the economics of Bitcoin and the position that it is in today, and it is the only one that can, at this point and this moment in time, is the only one that can achieve that digital gold user case. And no matter what happens around it in the short term, I believe that it's an unstoppable force. And you can just sit there, own your Bitcoin, and receive all the forks and be hedged and diversified and get these bonuses and decide how to speculate around it. But the one thing I really cannot put my hand on heart on and say is that you should be selling your Bitcoin in order to move over to something else. That's the one move that I think could work out for a few of you, but it will be an epic failure for most of you.
Yes, that last point was very important. I mean, you were also saying, well, people should hold on to their Bcash, but definitely the worst thing you can do is sell your Bitcoin. That is the digital gold. And I've got to tell you that digital gold beats digital cash. Gold beats cash. I mean, you said you don't know what's going to be worth more in the long run. Gold is worth more than paper. Gold is worth more than fiat.
But you need paper to spend. They're two user cases. They're two very different user cases. You need gold. You hold your value in the money that you think will appreciate, and you spend the money that you think will depreciate or maintain stable.
I don't know. There are people at Bitcoin or working with Bitcoin, excuse me, who are working on that digital cash aspect of it too. I mean, that's why we had SegWit. I mean, so I think even though Bitcoin, in theory, Bcash could become the digital cash, there are going to be digital cash aspects of Bitcoin also, which is also definitely the digital gold, which also might be an anonymous coin. There's so many different Bitcoin.
Well, the debate.
Bitcoin is a multi-aspect coin. There's so many different things that make it better. Bcash is a one-trick pony. Bcash is a one-Bcash.
If you want to summarize the debate in something really, it's not simple because it requires some technical knowledge. But if you want to summarize this in really simple terms, or something that we can all decide who wins at the end, is that the jury's out about who's going to win digital cash. The Bitcoin core developers believe that that will be achieved through off-chain scaling. The Bitcoin Cash team believe that that will be achieved through on-chain scaling. The debate is all about, and they may also implement their own off-chain so that the market can decide as well. But this whole debate is really about, it's not that Bitcoin Core want high fees and they want Bitcoin to be a bad asset and all that type of stuff. It's not the Bitcoin Cash, want all the things that they're discussing. It's a difference in the technical plausibility of how to achieve scaling. And the Bitcoin Core team believe that there is unlimited amount of demand for on-chain. If they increase the the block size, it will just fill exponentially, because Wall Street want to put every single derivative and every single market on this blockchain if you know the only public blockchain that's responsible to do that. And so they believe that that will just fill and fill and fill no matter what you create the block size. So you have to focus on off-chain scaling, and off-chain scaling means that you can have pegged cryptos, you can have unlimited amount of resources for that. Whereas on-chain, you know, on-chain Bitcoin Cash believes that you've got to follow the original vision, or is their common thing that they actually quote of the white paper. And that this 1 mega block size was not part of it, and therefore this has created an entire community around the belief that you can scale unlimited on-chain, and that there may not be unlimited demand, but you can meet that unlimited demand through some way on-chain. Now that requires an incredible technological feat, and I'm completely unqualified to answer that question of what is required in order to make it happen. But if you believe, you know, many of the people that have got Bitcoin to where it is, many of them believe that on-chain scaling is a technical feat that requires an incredible amount of responsibility, an incredible amount of time, an incredible amount of resource to actually achieve, and it may not even be achievable. So what you're really betting on here is, do the Bitcoin Cash development team have the capabilities to actually achieve that goal, or do Bitcoin Core and their roadmap have the capabilities to achieve that goal? And you're betting on dev teams. Now remember, things can change. So, you know, that is really just in its simplest term, on-chain scaling versus off-chain scaling. And guess what? 90% of people that own Bitcoin have no idea what the hell we're talking about.
Exactly. I think that's a huge point. That's why so many of them are just doing whatever the crowd is doing, what the persuasive people are telling them to do. If you said this is a battle of a comparison of dev teams. Well, if that's the case, then my God, I mean, how many guys does Bcash have? 8, 10 or something? And I mean, the best devs are in Bitcoin right now. Everyone knows this. I mean, I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill here. A lot of us, and your points are all on point. You make a lot of sense here, but this is, I think part of this is a paper tiger. Part of this is a hype machine, a well-placed hype machine, a great salesman, because you said people on the Bitcoin side are doing their hype also. Bitcoin is tremendous. There's no way to coordinate all the fans of Bitcoin. There are a lot of quiet fans of Bitcoin. The Bcash, what's going on over there is clearly highly coordinated by a very persuasive person, and they're getting behind that one guru. It's easier to get behind a guru and go wild pumping something than it is over where we are, where there is no king, where there is no guru to follow, where there is no dictator. I mean, we have seen this before. I want to remind everyone, time goes by. At the beginning of the year, we were hearing about how Ethereum's market cap was going to go ahead of Bitcoin, how it was so great that they had a leader, someone to get behind. Everyone was getting behind the Vitalik. Everyone was getting behind Ethereum. It got up to 0.15 of a Bitcoin. Now, what is it? It's down to a fourth of that or something like that. These things come and go. There are flavors of the month. There are FUD panics of the quarter. This is the latest FUD panic. Again, earlier in the year, we had the Ethereum FUD panic. I see so much in common with that Ethereum FUD panic, that people, there are always going to be a group of people who dislike Bitcoin for whatever reason, and they've got to jump on whatever train is the strongest against Bitcoin. At the beginning of the year, or the spring, it was Ethereum, clearly. And now some of these same people are jumping onto the Bcash train. The one big difference, though, is that Bcash abuses the Bitcoin name, and they have some wealthy holders who are helping pump this up. And we're in a new situation, international situation, with Korea and Asia, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show. There was no Korea back when Ethereum was pumping during the spring. There was nothing. I'm going to Korea. Maybe you should come too when I'm there in December. Maybe we should meet up there so we can study this thing together, this BitThumb experience. I mean, because this is totally amazing, the pumpage for altcoins that goes on over there. I mean, it's really fascinating stuff. So I'm doing these shows and getting you on here. I mean, to just remind the Bitcoin holders that you do not, and Simon already said this, you don't want to give up your precious Bitcoin. Bottom line, you can doing nothing is the best thing. You can consider Bcash as insurance. I used to say that with Ethereum Classic, that Ethereum Classic was insurance for Ethereum. So you're going on that same train of thought for the very, very conservative person. But again, people, this is definitely, if you give up your Bitcoin, you're going to regret it. There are people who bought Ethereum at 0.15 who probably greatly regret giving up their Bitcoin for Ethereum. All right, that's enough of me. I'm doing the original show I planned to do now, but I've got a great guest on here. So Simon, one wild card here that I wanted to cover, no, 3 wild cards here, 2. There are rumors that 2x still might go live, that we might get a 2x crypto dividend. Have you heard about that? It's weird. And also,
well, let's take them one at a time. I'll do that.
Okay, do that one first. Is 2x? Are we going to have a 2x?
Yeah, I don't believe so. I'm on the 2x mailing list. I'm in some groups with Jeff Garzik where he's active. We're investors in many of the companies that signed the New York agreement. I am not seeing anything to that effect. Will it happen? Hey, someone out there is probably likely to, want to do this, but will it happen in a big way? I don't believe so. There might be some small movement going down that would be very insignificant, but all the big players have left.
Clearly all the big players have left, but I think it's kind of interesting if a crypto dividend comes out of that. It's always nice to get a freebie for just holding your Bitcoin. So with Bcash is going to fork to correct some issues on Monday. My question for you, when we're talking about crypto dividends here, do you think there's anyone out there, or are they so dictator controlled, is there anyone out there that will continue the old Bcash chain? Because look, the old Bcash chain we're living on today is doing great. Do you think there is a miner out there that say, hey, Bcash, you can fork away, you keep the real Bcash, I'll keep this old chain alive? Do you think that's possible, or do you think they're just too, they listen to their leaders and that's it?
Possible, but I just don't think that the coin is, I don't think there's enough momentum and there's enough decentralization to have such an issue. So you've got to remember that the thing that gives Bitcoin its value is people are complaining about mining centralization and development centralization. While there might be truth behind that, there's certainly way more mining centralization than I am comfortable with. And there's certainly, some challenges in that most, some of the core developers get their pay and work for a company that has some of the most influential core developers. There's no doubt that those 2 things I would like to see improved. But what we have seen over the last 3 years is that Bitcoin is the most decentralized crypto and thing I have ever seen. And that is why we had all these hard forks. That's why the scaling debate went on for 3 years, is because it is actually decentralized. So there's pockets of centralization, but nobody controls the entire ecosystem. Right now, I don't think we can say the same for Bitcoin Cash. I think that there's pockets of centralization, but those pockets of centralization also go across into the other piece of the ecosystem. So we have, if in Bitcoin Cash there is centralization of mining, which I believe there is, then I think it's the same people that are developing, mining, using, and everything. The ecosystem is a bit too incestuous right now in the current situation, and that is why. I think we will see, whereas Bitcoin, because it is decentralized, you have these splits where people are based upon, strong ideologies. They can't get consensus. So you have to have these splits in order to get a solution where the 2 can compete. I don't think that same thing exists. I think Bitcoin Cash is, just like Ethereum, is kind of, Ethereum had the same. I mean, Ethereum does actually, Ethereum is certainly more decentralized than Bitcoin Cash because You know, you will have contention over proof of work versus proof of stake when that happens. And you did have contention over rolling back the chain versus leaving the blockchain immutable. In Bitcoin Cash, I don't believe you have these large convergent differences of opinion that will lead to two coins at this point that will both create a split and get traction, is because it is certainly at this stage more decentralized than both Ethereum and Bitcoin. Sorry, more centralized than Ethereum and Bitcoin.
It's people think, long-term thinkers have to kind of dig deep into what you just said there. I mean, Bcash is a dictatorship. I mean, it's not decentralized. I mean, cryptocurrency is supposed to be decentralized. I mean, it's so obvious. This is such a short-term blip. But
what is interesting, Adam, is PayPal was also centralized, and PayPal made a very good form of digital cash. So what we're saying is maybe Bitcoin Cash can achieve digital cash, and maybe the best way to achieve it is decentralized, is centralized.
Okay, and you said that before, and I got that point before. I agree. Maybe digital cash should be. I mean, probably should. Digital cash probably should be centralized. Let's put that on the table. What's that worth, though? What is that? We're talking. It's fiat. It is.
It has to be stable. It has to be stable, and it has to have a central bank.
At the end of the day, I don't think that's worth 30% of a Bitcoin. I don't think that service they're providing is worth very much. And I think so many other coins can do that same exact thing. So many other coins, altcoins out there can dredge up some dev team that's equivalent to them and get a guru and you know, do the same thing, pull the same thing off. They're lucky to have they use and abuse the Bitcoin name. Again, there is a place for digital cash, or there will be, because I'm telling you right now, I don't think there's a place right now for digital cash. People don't waste their cryptocurrencies on coffee right now.
They're competing with central banks. Digital cash is competing with the same digital currency that the Chinese government and all the Russian governments are creating. That's the competition. There we go.
I agree. I think, and so what is that worth? I don't think that's a very valuable thing. I don't, in terms of Bitcoin, how much you value your wealth in Bitcoin. Value, it is the underlying currency of the cryptocurrency of the world reserve cryptocurrency, excuse me. You value your wealth in Bitcoin. How much Bitcoin is a Bcash worth? It's as much as a ruble coin, probably, or a little bit more, because it's got a little bit more. It's got the Bitcoin name in it that they're using there. If you step back at this, sure, they're creating something that has a use case. But there's going to be a lot of other people doing it. It's just competing in another world. And right now, there's a huge hype machine behind it. And I think people are going to look back on this one day and be like, 30%, I could get 30%. I mean, that is amazing. So for people out there, Simon and I are basically on the same page as this. We're just kind of going at it at a different way here. And again, if you are ultra conservative, then hold on to everything. Hold on to everything. There's nothing wrong with holding. That's the ultimate long-term thinking. I just think that this is definitely, people are panicking all over the place, asking me also, you know, some people are being tricked into thinking Bcash will become Bitcoin. And we both can agree that that's not happening. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. I mean, there are people, you say 90% of the people that don't know what the heck is going on about what we're talking about. Yeah, a lot of the big money people in the regular world, they don't know Bcash from anything. I mean, they want to get into an asset that isn't correlated. That's Bitcoin. That isn't Bcash. Bcash is just something that came out of the blue the other day, basically. I mean, Bitcoin is associated with cryptocurrency in the regular world. We got to get used to that. And we got to remember that there's a halving in 2020, that again, we have been through this same hype cycle with Ethereum at the beginning of the year. So when we're talking about on the psychological level here. So don't get caught up in all this psychology and all this persuasiveness, people. Hold on to your Bitcoin. It is digital gold. It is long-term thinking. It is the 80%. and have a strong hand. So again, I find myself talking a little bit too much here. I've got like the best guest in the freaking space here. So again, do you have any thoughts on this B gold thing that's about to happen? By the way,
not much thoughts. You know, Bitcoin Gold is a friendly fork that's trying to do something different, that gives us a new experiment to compare with, you know, of what happens when you change certain parameters of Bitcoin. I see it more as a social science experiment that we're going to learn something through that adds some kind of value to the ecosystem. And then some people are debating about the pre-mine versus forking with no pre-mine, and you know, these things. But to me, it's just like any other altcoin. There's 300-400 altcoins that I haven't got the time or capacity to pay attention to what's happening. Yeah. So I mean, you know, in summary, Adam, I think there's going to be, you know, there's three winners, and your audience need to decide which way they're going to go. You're going to be a winner if you just do nothing. If you literally just hold your Bitcoin and hold all your forks, you're a winner. You don't care. You might have made there might have been a way of optimizing that by selling at the exact right moment and buying at the exact right moment. But you know, most people aren't qualified to do that. So you're just going to be a winner if you do that. You're probably going to be a winner if you're one of these insiders, and I'm talking about the insiders at the very, very, you know, core of, and core is probably a wrong word to use here because I don't take that out of context. But one of these insiders that is behind some of this coordinated manipulation, both of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, or whatever is actually happening. I'm sure they're going to win. The rich are going to get richer, and you know, that's going to be one of those another type of person that's win. There will be a tiny number of people, and I mean a very small number of people, that are going to trade this to perfection, and they're going to sell Bitcoin at the exact right time and buy Bitcoin Cash at the exact right time and end up with the exact right portfolio mix. And you know, that's going to be less than 1% of the people watching this video, and everyone else is going to lose. So you're either part of the inner circle, or you're just going to be one of those freak traders, 1%, that makes every single move right. I believe that the only camp that, you know, or, you know, and there's shades of between, you know, in between all there, but the only camp that most of the listeners of this can fit into is just the do nothing crowd.
All right, that's the conservative approach. That's, you know, you're not risking anything. That's what we preach here. So have a strong hand, people. Simon Dixon, I really thank you for coming on the show today. I think you inform so many people out there. People really love it when you're on here. You just give a great, unique perspective. I just want to remind everyone that we do a show every day here. This Week in Bitcoin, you can check it out. That was yesterday, I believe. I'm so confused. I don't even know what time it is anymore. Again, it's very early in the morning where I am. So I thank everyone who's watching. Please pound that like button, subscribe to this channel, and do check out the links below. I'll be back in about 22 hours. Who knows? And we'll talk about B-Gold. We'll talk about Bcash. We'll talk about Bitcoin. And remember, these are just, you know, new altcoins. Yeah, that's great. Altcoins are fun too. So Simon, again, thank you very much for being on the show. I'm Adam Meister, Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, check out the notes section below. Bye-bye, everyone. See ya.